is West and Central Africa's only certified speaking professional. A powerhouse in public speaking, leadership development, and maritime strategy. He blends eloquence with economic foresight, championing Nigeria's transition from oil dependency to sustainable maritime prosperity. Please join me as we welcome the former special advisor to the Director General of NIMASA on Communication and Strategy, who is also the founder of Blue Economy Academy. Please celebrate Mr. Ubong Essien CSP.
With regards to our business here today, in 2020, I had a fantastic privilege of being invited by the then DG of NIMASA, Dr. Bashir Jamu, to be a special advisor on strategy and communications. I was managing my business, teaching public speaking and communication skills to very high-profile people. He was one of my students back then, and he felt, you can't be here, you need to come and work in government. And I said to him, hell no. Those are my words to him. Hell no. Leave me alone, let me mind my business. Until my wife intervened and my mentor, a man I respect so much, Professor Patu Tony, a man that I always say taught me a lot of what I know today, got on the phone and said to me, Ubong, what are you waiting for? You need some experience in government. And so I packed my bags and headed into the unknown to start a voyage in maritime. Now I was thrown into that sector without any orientation. I had to work at the highest level with the chief executive day in, day out, and I had to learn very fast. The politics of it, and I'm glad I have an SSA here so he understands what I'm talking about. The politics of it, and of course, the technicalities of maritime. And one of the things I quickly discovered, which is really what is going to buoy what I share with you today, was that the real money is not in how much NIMASA collects or was collecting, or in those contracts. The real money, the real wealth was in the maritime sector itself. The entire ecosystem of what we now know and recognize as the blue economy. But before I proceed, permit me to also extend my respect and acknowledgement of the presence of the SSA to the Governor on Housing Ministry of Lagos State, Honorable Ayo Amodu. Honorable, my apologies, sorry, this just came to me. So we're in good hands. We have two SSAs here. So I feel a kindred spirit knowing the roles of special advisors to principal officers. And one of the things that I learned quickly, and I had what I would call the fortuity of leading, was the agency's Blue Economy Initiative, which we called From Crude to Blue. We are coming down to the real estate sector, but we need to know where the journey began. In other words, we had to start a conversation about our reliance on fossil fuels. Of course, it brings in most of our petrodollars. But does it really bring in as a sector, the developmental expectations in terms of economics. 6 years ago, it was a report in the Nation newspaper. NLNG and NCDMB signed a $12 billion deal for LNG Train 7 to employ 10,000 people. Please, I want to crave your indulgence. Let's just deal with estimate values here. Can someone help me calculate $12 billion across 10,000 jobs? How much will it be per job? Anyone with any device, please. Help me out. $12 billion by 10,000 jobs. We are talking estimate values. We know that was investment, but let us just cut the promoters of the project some slack. Let's say that was the total money meant for job and everything associated with it. What do we have per person? $1.2 million. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, $1.2 million multiplied by 1,500 naira. How much? 1.8 billion. 1.8 billion per job. This is the point I want to make. The expectation, and this is just very basic and simple economics, the expectation from that calculation alone is that for there to be any benefit, it would have to trickle down from each of those 10,000 persons. What is called trickle-down economics. So if 5,000 of us decide to go and stash 50% of that money somewhere in the US, what is its economic value? It's practically zero. This scenario is just an example of how enclave in nature, how restricted in nature the oil sector is. It demands huge investments, huge capital outlays per project, but its economic effect is so limited, so restricted. That's why if I were to ask each of you here, if you know anyone that works in the oil sector, you'll have to rack up your head. It's an exclusive economy, it's an exclusive club. Nigeria cannot grow economically on the strength of an economy that is on the strength of a sector that is exclusive, enclave by nature. We have seen it. And so it makes sense for us to say, out of that 12 billion, estate surveyors and valuers, we're going to invest just 1 billion out of that 12 billion in real estate. What do you think will happen in terms of employment? I'm asking you, anyone? This is an open conversation now. You know your numbers, you know your business. Will it employ just 10,000 people? Estate players in the estate sector, will it employ just 10,000 people? Give me a guess. Give me a guess. $1 billion investment in real estate across, maybe let's say a PPP project. Let's say we're building some smart cities. Let's say we're building some set of estates. Can someone give me a number, please? Pardon? Over 20,000? Any other person? It certainly will be much more than 12 billion to 10,000. So I share this with you to present to you a picture of two cities, a tale of two cities, or a tale of two economies. Oil and gas, which we have relied upon to drive our economy, and then the blue economy, which in itself is an emergent economy, an extant sector. And we're going to see some of the thinking behind it. And if I am able to help everyone in this room, whether you're a policymaker or a practitioner, to shift your thinking, then the possibilities will be endless. So, the blue economy and the real estate development, the sea of opportunities before us. The World Bank tells us that if the ocean were a country, it would be the 7th largest economy in the world. Let's start with that premise. The 7th largest economy in the world. The 6th largest economy is the UK. So after the UK, the ocean economy would be the 2nd largest in the world. For very obvious reasons. 70% of our planet is water. 70%. And the economic sustenance of the planet itself, apart from the biology of it, is water. How? Global trade. Seventy to 80% of global trade is maritime. Maritime is blue. Think about it. During COVID, no planes could fly. No cars could run. We all got stuck. Everybody sat back at home. Only one place on earth was active. The sea lanes of the world. Transporting goods, supplies, equipment to help nations survive. Why? Because most of what we consume is delivered to us by water. So this is another important premise, because if we do not understand the context, every attempt we make to try to break into the blue economy from a blue cities perspective, which is one of the buckets of the blue economy, will challenge us and could even discourage us. So whether we like it or not, this is what the blue economy is about. So let's look at some definition of the blue economy, and let's take what the World Bank tells us about the blue economy. The World Bank says that the blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth. It didn't say for revenues, and we have to begin to shift this mindset away from revenues. Revenues are essentially meant to be a fallout of actual growth. There's too much fixation on revenues without growth. It is not a sustainable approach. Revenues are a given. When economic growth takes place, if you are generating so much revenues and it leaves nothing in terms of economic impact and growth, what it means is that when next we go in search of revenues, we have to increase the toll. That's what it means. So the oceans are there untapped because there's no growth. And all of the values So whether we're in government, the fixation of revenue, the fixation towards revenue, or the fixation of revenue has to be modified, has to be tempered. Likewise, for those of us in business who are also fixated on revenues, how do I make money? It is not a sustainable approach without creating growth. Because what guarantees revenue in perpetuity is ensuring that the growth engine continues to run. If you're coming constantly for revenues, like the concept of Stephen Covey's work, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when he talked about the golden goose, the goose that lays the golden egg. Each morning the farmer goes in, the goose lays an egg, he takes it to its golden cells. Every morning he keeps going. Then he got so tired, he said, look, why don't I just slice the goose open and take all the eggs? Well, there's a problem with that. In the final analysis, you can take all the eggs, then there's no more goose. That's a classical example of over-fixation on revenues alone, or on making money alone. There must be growth. The farmer ought to have been thinking of, oh, all right, I have one goose laying a golden egg. What do I need to do to expand capacity? That's what the blue economy is about. So it is a call to us to know that we must take steps, make the necessary commitments, make the necessary investments towards ensuring that there's growth, and then the money we're looking for will come. There's money, the blue economy. So let's go back to our definition. The sustainable use of ocean resources. The ocean has a lot of resources. Those resources are within the ocean. Those resources are also above and around the ocean. And those resources are also adjacent the ocean. If I wanted to define the blue economy simply to the average Nigerian, I would say everything water. Whatever is inside the water, your fishes, your shrimps, those living organisms and plants, whatever is beneath at the bottom of the water, the resources you can mine from it. Whatever is on top of the water, your ability to carry out transportation activities. And then, of course, the fallout effects of what happens on the coasts or the adjacency value of water, meaning coastal communities, trading taking place along that line, the development of estates along that line, hubs. That entire ecosystem would be my own definition or explanation of what the blue economy means, so that the average Nigerian understands it and appreciates it, because Nigeria is a coastal state. Nigeria is supposed to be thriving via the blue economy. That is the understanding we are yet to inject fully into our minds. Many people live in Lagos but don't even have that appreciation that Lagos used to go by the appellation state of aquatic splendor. Now that sounds like a mouthful. But that's blue economy. So those are your ocean resources. And it says when we use these ocean resources, certain things must happen. First, economic growth. Second, improve livelihoods. There are people living around water bodies that are worse off. That is not blue economy. That's like brown economy. They are worse off. So that's not blue economy. It must improve their livelihoods. So whether it is to enable them go to schools, go to good schools, get medical support, and be as comfortable and have some measure of decency, improved livelihoods, it's a factor. And then, of course, it must create jobs. Jobs. It must create jobs. Employment, so that the people within that area can have a decent means of getting income to sustain their lives. And then, lastly, it must also preserve the health of the ocean ecosystem. So, as you begin to prepare your minds to go into the blue economy. From a real estate standpoint, you must understand what the blue economy actually means and what the 5 key elements represent. So that when you design projects, when you plan projects, when you propose or market or execute projects, all these elements must be there. So if you're building marinas, for instance, because those are the things we should begin to take for granted along our coasts. If you are building seaside estates, luxury estates, hotels, which cost so much more to be in, or take, we shouldn't go too far, take the Eco Atlantic, for instance. If you're doing all of this, you must keep in mind whether you're participating as a financier or participating as a transaction advisor or participating as an actual builder. You must keep these things in view. Sustainability, economic growth, which is where you make your money, improving the livelihoods of those within that context, making sure that you're asking yourself, how many jobs are we creating? And then ensuring that matters such as pollution are addressed. We take a look at our water, there's so much that needs to be done in that regard. Plastics in waters everywhere. These things have to be looked at collectively to ensure that we meet the definition of what the blue economy actually represents. I'm going to move on by showing us some facts and figures concerning the blue economy and why it is such an imperative. Globally, the blue economy is worth about $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion globally. Africa has managed, according to the AFDB, to capture about 296 of that economic value. And then Nigeria is positioned as having 10% of that. Understandably, we have a very expanded coast. From Badagry here in Lagos to Bakassi in Cross River or thereabouts, 853 kilometers. These are just conservative estimates to show us the potential. $30 billion. Can the blue economy bring us at least $1 billion? $1 billion is how much in Naira terms? 1.5 trillion? Is it? 1.5 trillion. These are the considerations, these are the things we must have at the back of our minds as we engage in this conversation. And I'm hoping, which is going to form one or two of my recommendations, that FIABCI can begin to take the lead. Not just in advocacy. We are past the stage of advocacy. We are way, way, way behind. I'm talking now about engagement. Reaching out. Reaching out. Yes, we need policies. But don't wait for policies. I remember one of my famous motivational quotes. I used to do a lot of motivational speaking when I first started out some 25 years ago. It says, I couldn't wait for my ship to come in, so I had to swim out to it. I couldn't wait for success to come to me. Yes, that's the exact quotation. I used to use it back then. If you ever read the Achievers Manual that I published back in the day, I couldn't wait for success, so I had to swim out to it. So FIABCI, NIESB, that's the mindset you must have. You do have government officials here. I am sure for a state like Lagos, Lagos is the center of excellence. Lagos always leads. There are some policy initiatives. We see that even in the various designations. But there are some policy elements that you are going to have to be the one to prod them to do. That's why it's called private sector-led initiative. 13 years ago, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, because he wanted to deliver packages swiftly. After starting Amazon Prime, which was one-day delivery, was not satisfied with just one-day delivery, wanted instant delivery. So what did he do? He started test running drones to deliver packages within 30 minutes. That was 13 years ago. So 2002, 2025, 13 years ago. So 2012, I beg your pardon. And 60 Minutes had an interview with Jeff Bezos, and he said, look, I've done this. The problem that we have is that the FAA, that's the Federal Aviation Administration, they are so far behind. What you have just test run is confusing them. Think about it. Sometimes it has to be that way. Sometimes it has to be that way. That's why it's called a partnership. Government needs all the partnership it can get from those of us in the private sector. All the partnership. And don't just sit back and wait for policies. You can no longer rely on just advocacy and appeal. You've now got to move into engagement. And when we're talking of engagement, you're saying, for instance, FIABCI, we're going to visit the governor of Lagos State. Lagos is a coastal city. We have some leverage. Some of our members are in the cabinet. We are not going there to say, Mr. Governor, as you know, the blue economy is this, that, and the other, and we need to tap into it. The ship has left the shore on that long ago. Kenya is doing far better than we are. We are behind, but we have the mass to actually, once we get it right, overtake any African nation. You're going to say, if you can open up this space for us, PPP arrangement, the final say on occupancy is the governor. The same way we have succeeded in building estates out of nowhere. There are places that are estates today that 10 years ago, if you mentioned it, I still cringe. That you mean there's an estate there. Would I love to live in those places? But when you see the drone view of those estates, when you hear people telling you that they live there, it's a miracle what the real estate sector has been able to accomplish. And we now know from the current rebasing of the GDP, the preliminary submission is that real estate has what? Has overtaken oil and gas in terms of GDP performance. That should tell us that there's something there. We should all be paying attention to it. So you've worked this miracle on the land. We're saying it's time to take your miracle powers to the waters. Is it going to be easy? No. If you have to help the public officials with writing the policy, write it. Thankfully, we have enough technology to help shape a lot of these things. With the advent of artificial intelligence, we can quickly, on a dashboard, see what global best practices are and make the necessary adjustments. So you have to needle them. Absolutely, you have to needle them. Because sometimes the public sector is usually a laggard. Jeff Bezos wanted drone delivery. FAA couldn't catch up with it. I'm told that drone delivery just started in the UK last year or 2 years ago. The private sector has to be very aggressive. And that's why I use the term engagement over just advocacy. Because at the advocacy level, we're talking. At the engagement level, you are putting something on the table. And you are placing a challenge on the table. To say, give us this space. Give us this. Clear this space. If all you can do is open it up with the most minimal infrastructure as your own investment in this partnership, do it. And then we can take it off from there. All right, so the next thing I want us to focus on, I want to show us a picture of some of our maritime assets as a nation, to just give us that level of clarity as to what we are sitting on and as to what we actually have in our possession as a nation. So here are some of our maritime assets. 853 kilometers of coastline. We've mentioned that. Those 8 littoral states: Lagos, Ogun State, Ondo State, Delta, Rivers. There is Akwa Ibom, my state. Although I think I'm more of a Lagosian than an Akwa Ibom person because I was born and brought up here, and I'm not sure they've seen me in my state. Over 10 years, 15 years. Even when I worked in Nimasa had an office and projects there. It was those projects I was unfortunately not able to go and participate in. Cross River is also there. Bayelsa is there. We have 8 of these states. So we have what I call the keys of the Atlantic. And international law says that from the coastline right to 200 nautical miles, everything around the waters, inside the waters, belongs to us. Everything. So everything you can build there in terms of real estate is yours. And by the way, I was talking with my friend Bidomi this morning. I said, look, I have a slightly different view to the concept of real estate than the general one, which is, if we talk about real estate, it means that you own landed property and all that. That for me, real estate is permission to mint something. In this case, to mint money. That's what it is. Now, at the School of Eloquence, we have a license from the NBC to operate a TV channel called the Achievement Channel. And on that license, it says nationwide. What do you think MTN's real estate is? It's not the mass or the masts and what have you. Its real estate is where? The airwaves. That is MTN's real estate. And that's why they say everywhere you go. That's real estate. So we need to begin to look at all of this. And I want to challenge you. So if I have a TV license that says nationwide, that means that my real estate, as far as broadcasting is concerned, is that space. The NBC gave us that license the same way the NCC gave MTN that license. And it's the same way the governors give you what? C of O. Because you know that the land is not permanently yours. Now, I don't know that I'm giving some governors ideas to begin to give water CFOs or blue CFOs here. But anyway, if they use it, they should make sure they pay me because so water itself is real estate. That's what we're saying. Because we're talking economics here. And until we begin to think ocean-centric views, we may not be able to translate our success on land to the sea. So we have 8,500 kilometers of inland waterways. Now, this is very interesting. So when we talk about the blue economy, it's not just what happens along the coast. The coastline is the frontier. That's why I believe very strongly that it is the 8 littoral states that represent the actual frontiers for the blue economy. FIABCI find a way to engage with each of these states, understand their needs, do a proper needs analysis as it relates to real estate. That is going to be your linkage. Because what we're trying to do here is simply convergence. How do we bring about a convergence of real estate prowess with blue strength, which is our comparative advantage? When we say blue, we're talking about the waters, and then create an economic outcome that rewards the players, and also do it in a sustainable manner that provides employment and uplifts the livelihood of all parties involved. This is the thinking of the blue economy. So the 8 littoral states are the frontiers, but inside the country, within the country, I call those 20 states all connected by water, inland waterways network. We call them the blue corridors. 20 states in Nigeria can be linked within free water. And we have 8,500, over 8,500 kilometers of these inland waters. So think about those top two, 853 kilometers coastline, and then 8,500 kilometers in-house. I'm going to spare you most of these others and then show you what I mean. Opportunities of the blue economy. This is our coastline. And there are cities everywhere here. There's Badagry, Ojo. These are all coastal, potentially coastal cities, because that's where we are going to, coastal cities. Look all the way right down to Bakassi. This is what we have for free. Every day we wake up to it. Economic possibilities that will not destroy the environment, that will create more jobs, guarantee more security, because if there's more development along these coastlines, it reduces insecurity. This is where the money is. Of course, I mentioned earlier on about what we have, our inland waters. So, my dear friends, I want to quickly point you to the buckets of blue opportunities. Let me tell you, you think you have made money, You haven't made money. If you're a long-term thinker and you can take or make the first mover's advantage, and of course, real estate business is a long-term business. This is where the money is. Every time I travel abroad, I pay more for the hotel room I stay in, as long as that hotel is closer to a water body, than I pay for a regular hotel where normal people like you and I stay. Why? Blue economy. There's always a blue tax. We are enjoying this fresh breeze. I stayed at one hotel in Greece called Kiani Ati 2 years ago when I attended Posidonia, which is the annual event on maritime, on shipping globally. Because the Greeks are the leaders. The Greeks control about 30% of shipping globally. That's why they could manage their major economic crisis. Their economy, their maritime strength, their blue strength was out of this world. Countries like Singapore, all they are doing, they control 25% of maritime labor, seafarers. So imagine what those young boys from ships are repatriating. It gets to a point where nobody is bothering about revenues that government is collecting, but the collective effect, the collective blue effect from blue activity is significantly flowing in. I'm not just talking about trickle down when one person makes $1 million. No, that's trickle down economics. It's risky, it's unpredictable. But when it is a flow, and it flows, you know that everything in that hemisphere is going to feel the effect of the current. That's the power of the blue economy. So when we are showing you this rug of water that we are lifting, we are showing you that, let me use a Yoruba expression, Nkombembe. That's what we're telling you. That's what we're telling you. So it's a bucket of blue opportunities. So I'm just going to leave you, before I go into Q&A, by just showing you the 10 buckets of blue economic activities so that you can decide which one you want to fetch from. The 10 buckets. That's why we call this an expanse economy. You don't need to be too sophisticated, having learned special drilling skills to participate. Just look for which bucket is nearest to your capability and begin to show interest. So what are those 10 buckets? At the Blue Economy Academy, I founded the Blue Economy Academy after my time in Nimasa. I said to myself, okay, I've had government experience. And it was a fantastic privilege, and I'll always be thankful to my boss, Dr. Jamo, who fought tooth and nail. He fought his way to ensure that I took up that job, up to the point of getting my wife involved. You know, when your wife comes and says to you, why don't you rethink it? It means that even in your house, you can lose elections. I'm telling you. That's what it means. And so I took on that job, and I learned a lot because I actually participated. All the things we did, we came up with a document called From Crude to Blue. I was sharing that with the chairman, with the chairman of Lagos FIABCI. Sorry, Lagos NIESB earlier on. And so these are the buckets I want to show you at the Blue Economy Academy, which was what I started after I left NIMASA. And look, I don't want this knowledge to go to waste. Let's begin to share knowledge, inspire people, educate people about the Blue Economy. So there are 10 buckets, and this is where I'll leave it and take questions. Bucket number 1, as you can see, is what we call blue what? Blue commerce, trade, shipping, movements of goods and services. Can you imagine blue commerce? Moving palm oil to Lagos by sea. It will be cheaper. You'll be able to do more volumes. You'll evade, the usual wahalas on the road I will not mention. And then you'll be able to do so much more. Blue commerce. So transportation itself is one. The second one is what we call blue bounty. Blue bounty simply means aquatic life. In terms of fish, shrimps, and the ton of what you can harvest for food. The third one is what we call blue power. Sustainable energy. Nigeria still has a lot to do in that regards. Renewables, wind farms, and all the rest that we can get. As we're struggling with our power as a nation, it has to be one of the options that we incorporate into our energy mix as a nation. Then the one that I think concerns you the most is blue cities. Coastal infrastructure. Coastal estates. I would prefer to live near the ocean and enjoy the breeze, because the breeze is better if you're nearer the ocean. Have you noticed? It's better. Then you have a host of others. You have blue capital. How do we raise money? And FIABCI, this is going to be very important for you to engage and encourage your financiers to begin to think in terms of what we call blue bonds. Blue bonds. We have a series of programs at the Blue Economy Academy where we go into each of these buckets. It's a course you take for about a month to understand the total dimensions of the blue economy before you begin to get involved. Blue capital, because our finance institutions need to learn these things. We now have green bonds. There are various ways to raise money, raise capital for your projects. But if your players or if your financiers don't have the understanding and what the rules are, they're not going to be able to provide that support meaningfully. Then there's blue governance and justice, and I'm glad we have a government presence here. There is the kind of awareness that is required to function in that space. So lawyers have a place here. If you're a lawyer, I would advise you to begin, if you are serious about the economics of your profession. This is one of the most untapped aspects of the legal profession. I could count the number of maritime lawyers I met during my 3 years at NIMASA. And yet, that was a sector that required so many lawyers in terms of specialization. Not to talk about blue governance and justice. Then Blue Nexus is about biotechnology and all of the various intersections of technological applications to drive the blue economy. Then we have blue climate. It's very important for those of us who care about the environment. Thankfully, every state now has a Ministry of Environment, and there are actions being taken because we must be stewards, worthy stewards of the environment. As we take resources from it, we must preserve it so that there will be a place to go back to continue and make it sustainable. And then we have blue talents. I mentioned the Philippines. 35% of seafarers in the world today, global supply, of seafarers are Filipinos. Pardon? You consent to it. Thank you very much. They are Filipinos. And you know the interesting thing? In maritime, you get paid in dollars. Because maritime is international. So Blue Talent is there, capacity building there, and then finally Blue Ventures, the kinds of businesses we need to set up. Young entrepreneurs need to begin to think, startups in the blue sector, in the blue economy. So these are the things I want us to understand. It is not in my place to educate you. I am the least qualified to educate you when it comes to the specs of your business in real estate. I've only come here to shed light to help project what the trend is as far as this emerging sector is concerned. It's only emergent for us in Nigeria. It is a sector that has taken hold globally. And to challenge us to begin to think about making Nigeria blue. More blue is what we need. More blue, so that we will not suffer the blues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That was another big ocean of knowledge that we have just shared with us today. So we'll take Q&A. Because we don't have so much time, we'll take just 3 people. I know we have more questions, so I'm going to take in the order in which we raise our hands. So I have number 1. Please note that, sir. Do we have any other question in the house? Oh, we are all okay. Are you raising your hand? So number 2, sir.
Okay.
I think that's okay. We are all together. Your name, sir, your family, and your question.
My name is David. Good afternoon, everyone.
You say David?
I represent FIABCI, which is of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is a global body of 36 million Indians working abroad. And I heard the African region. I represent 54 countries from Lagos. Let me tell you, I don't want to have a question. As Professor Ubong said, I'll use the word professor. Most of these things, like, what you brought, I just want to add some supplements with your permission. Because I know you're a figure of the day, and you're trying really to make it a tomorrow today. Let me add to it. And I want all of us to, see in practicality some of those things what Professor has mentioned today, which many countries have achieved. The first thing what is started with the villages, towns and cities. If you have time to, I welcome you to India and come to a state called Tamil Nadu. We built a temple from 7,000 kilometers far from Tamil Nadu called Angkor Wat in Cambodia. And those villages, if you see even today, there are houses which are not less than 6,000 to 8,000 of square feet, the minimum smallest house. Because that shows when you are at the coastal city, you can connect to the whole world. So I just wanted to supplement Professor on this issue. Number 1.
Thank you.
Number 2, we mentioned an inland waterways. Thanks to our current government in India, they are working tirelessly and with safe cost. Not only cost, the headache that we see on Nigerian roads. I just put in one number. For me, India has got a very big coastal, I don't remember the numbers, I think 5,000 kilometers or so. So earlier, we used to produce something in Kolkata from eastern part of India and you take to western part of India. It will cost you 15 rupees per kilometer with fuel, toll and all the nonsense on the road. Because to tell you, Nigeria is just a pilot of India, what India used to be for 20 years ago. So we've seen all those things. So today, the same thing, you pay 1.5 rupees. You see how the water line moves and helps us. We're studying on the road and the quantity. So Professor, that is the second feature I wanted to supplement.
Right. Thank you.
The third thing what I wanted to add to this gathering here is, let me tell you, yes, it is not a matter of government. Those who are still sleeping and waiting for the government to do, government may not come. Whose government is that? Who is the represent? Who are those gentlemen sitting on the office? Please, don't engage them. He's right. The whole world is waiting, not for a decade. They have done another decade has done. If you don't engage, the delay is yours. Your country is struggling. You are struggling. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, sir. You see, India is one of the leading maritime nations in the world today. We can't, maritime and blue economy, we can stay here and go on and on and on. As you can see, I still have like 4-5 slides, but again, that's why you have to come to the Blue Economy Academy, because we sit you down and we take you into it to understand what the dimensions are that we're dealing with. Then you take your own slice, your own bucket, and say, look, 10 buckets, I think this one bucket is enough for one lifetime. Let me now begin to drink from it and drill into it. Oceans of opportunities. In fact, think of the ocean this way, or the blue economy this way. Think in terms of vastness, as vast as the seas are, and think in terms of depth. Vastness and depth. That is what defines the true riches that are available with regards to the blue economy.
Thank you so much, Peter. I want to first of all take a lead from what Ms. Jewish, and you are very famous about the sound of your country. Yes, the vastness in this area, the depth, your country has understood it and tapping into it. I will tell you, we also understand it here. Unfortunately, we have a lot of bottlenecks that have made us to stand still, and we are not tapping into the resources. And I must tell you that the main source of the strength that we're supposed to receive to tap into the resources is even the major cause of the problem, and that is the government and the bottlenecks we pull around. I was privileged to be present the day that the first inland waterway was launched in Nigeria, somewhere in Ngwaland in Aba. That was about almost 20 years ago. I was there. And then everybody that came was talking about how the economy is going to produce an area that has not been tapped into. You have explained here now how if you travel from your country to another country you mentioned, how the developments have sprung up and then dead areas have just come alive. Yes, and that was the target of what was happening at but the time after that date, the whole thing was standing still. The people who were looking this idea, many of them went bankrupt because of the problems they were having with the government. Everybody in government wanted to come and have a piece of the game and forgot what they were supposed to do. Asking for the own, if you don't want to give me part of this whole thing, the whole matter will die. And later, after some years, I was not hearing that, they said the first inland waterway that we launched in somewhere in Kaduna State. One of the ones that was happening in the people that need it most are not even having it. And so, when you talk about the government is, we shouldn't wait for the government. We have to wait for them. Because generally speaking, it's not as if we don't know what we are supposed to do. You are here with packed with knowledge about what we can do, and I'm sure so many of us who I've known this. Yes, every day our eyes are open about the vastness of the blue economy. And I must tell you, I want you to help us out. How do we navigate ourselves out of this bottleneck? Not by the greed and feel that we greed of people in government. Or is it lack of talent, or is it lack of knowledge? We don't understand. But until that thing is unwound, we will not move anywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As one who has worked in government, I agree with you. Government is that space. Government all over the world is not just Nigeria. Government is always a laggard. We must understand that all over the world. We can argue the degrees to which this happens or that. For instance, you have in America now, the government wants to create a Department of Government Efficiency because it feels, the current administration feels things are not as efficient as they should be. That's the nature of bureaucracies. That's why I said, that's why I mentioned that quotation, that I could not wait for success. So I swam out to it. Engagement is very important. For instance, one of the things, when we started engaging the state governors, we realized that by going there, telling them, this is what we have on the table that we are about to do, and you might miss out. That was enough to trigger a response. That's why it's a partnership. That's why I said, advocacy will not cut it anymore. We've got to think engagement. There's no government you will go to and put some value on the table and there will not be some level of conversation. Because here's the mindset of those in government, that when you come to them, it's as if you are looking for something. That's the typical mindset. But we now need to reverse that look, we are bringing something. There are 8 littoral states. FIABCI cannot engage with all 8 and not get a positive response from at least one. Through its network, its alums, probably there might be a FIABCI member, maybe honorary member, that is a governor or a deputy governor or secretary to the governor or an influential person in government or in one party politics or the other. There has got to be. Because what I found is that everyone is connected to everyone. But the question is, are you willing? Are you ready? That's what needs to happen. So engagement will trigger things. It might not be enough of what you want, but that can start the process. I can say that out of experience, that the 1 or 2 private sector people that came, for instance, she's late now, and God bless her soul, bless memory, Lady Margaret Orakusi. Now, if you go to somewhere around Oyigbo, there's a jetty being built there. I don't know the state of that jetty now. During my time in Nimasa, Margaret Orakusi was probably one of the very few persons I could count the stakeholders that didn't come to Nimasa asking for something, looking for a contract or asking for anything. When she came, she was putting on the table, we could see the maritime projects she was doing, and the concern for us was how to not miss out. How to not miss out, we needed to at least find a way to associate with what was going to become a success. She had land cleared, that place was a massive heap of refuse. And she had reclaimed land, she had already cleaned the environment, she was doing that with NIWA and other agencies, and Nimasa had an environmental role to play. I was a special advisor to DG on strategy and communication. It wasn't something it wasn't something I had to struggle with. She had already made a compelling case. This was not somebody coming to take. This was somebody coming to say, look, I've already gone ahead of you guys. It just so happens that I need you to sign off on this or that. This train has already left. We need more of that mindset if we are going to succeed. So success does not come easily. We all have to go out. That's why I said we have to swim out to it. Kogi State is a confluence state. It even makes it a greater, for instance, Kogi as an instance. This is the governor. If what you have to use to bring him into the fold is giving an honorary membership or whatever it is, and then you're laying it at the table and it's clear. So I can't go into the nitty-gritty, but it's a mindset that we have to adopt because government is slow. We have to get ahead of it. That's one of the things that I learned, and that's why I want to encourage and to say, don't be discouraged. Engage and demand. We have senior government officials, I think the 2 of them have left. The next conversation should be, all right, this is what we are planning to do. we know you're already doing this and that, there's a point of convergence. Let me give you a typical instance. When we visited, the DG of NIMASA then, Dr. Jamo, visited the governor of Lagos on the Blue Economy Project, for instance. I was on that team. The governor said, okay, you know what? I could be interested in blue talent, which is, what's it called now? Seafarers, training of seafarers. But we already have a maritime academy in Oron, but we don't mind being, what do you call it now? A mini campus in Lagos. I can provide infrastructure. I can provide whatever it will take. I can provide buildings, whatever it will take. Now, what was missing in that meeting was a FIABCI-like party. Let's say a CIPM, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, because we're talking talent here, that could have just brokered it. Now, what could have happened, or the expectation of governance would have been that maybe someone on the Lagos team, in doing their job, would have made that connection. My governor is ready, NIMASA is ready. How do we create this linkage? But because it was government talking to government, can you see what's happening? That match did not light. This 4 years down the line. That's why I'm saying we cannot, the stakes are too high for us to leave it totally to them. We must up our game. Because if CIPM has said, oh, we have the database, we are the warehouse of manpower development in Nigeria. All right? So do we need to create an agency? Do we need to create a special purpose vehicle? Whatever it is, that's where private sector would have come to lead it. And that's why I'm saying to FIABCI that you are in a unique position right now to spark off these engagements. And one thing I want to encourage you to do is to set up a blue economy committee within your body to focus on this and to begin to take some steps. So there are lots of irons in the fires, but we have not connected the dots, the linkages to spark them into life is what's missing. And the problem is that we are waiting for civil servants who by their default status, is their wheelbarrow-like. You know what a wheelbarrow, you have to lift it and push it. And when we need to do that, we must do it. Because you are investing, your resources are going into this. So it is in your interest to help drive the policy, if policy is what is needed. If policy is the only thing remaining, to help drive it, it is in your interest. So you must find a way to have a seat at the table. That's how this works. Otherwise, we'll keep preaching it as you've continued to say, and nothing will come out. For me, as the founder of the Blue Economy Academy, what I have, NIMASA in 3 years was like my PhD in maritime and blue economy. As a technician, I know how it works. And what we have done at the Blue Economy Academy is to translate that into modules of learning, but in a very functional way. Not academic now. These are the things you can begin to do. Calls you can begin to make. Just like you have Lagos Business School. As you're finishing a program in Lagos Business School, you're already seeing results from the network, the connections, and what have you. So most of us have access to governance. How are we using the access? How are we leveraging it to move industries and sectors forward? So I feel you, sir, because I've been there, I know what it's like. But what I also know is that if we want something, we have to get up and move the needle. Otherwise, in 5 years' time, we'll be back here and we're still discussing this. And I hope that FIABCI can begin to make the move in engagement terms. And let's begin to see, I want to see the president of FIABCI Africa and Nigeria in Bayelsa with the governor. And then a statement that, okay, we are giving you this plot to develop as a test blue city. Then FIABCI, your network, your members, with all of the connections, can we do this? Let's see what it will look like. And I can tell you, the governor of Ogun State, once he sees that, he will call Mr. Adele and say, are you not my brother again? What happened? I'm seeing you in Bayelsa. That's how things work in this country. Well, I'm seeing you in Bayelsa. What happened? You are from this state. That will be the next question. I can tell you from my state that if they see me doing this, they will ask, and you are from this state and you have never, they will accuse me as if it is my fault. But the point I'm making is there are things we can do. There are low-hanging fruits. Let's take them first and let the policy and the bureaucracy catch up. They are lagging indicators. They are laggards.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm done. One take.
Yeah, sorry, we just have one more question.
One more. Okay.
Good afternoon.
We have to.
I'm Reverend Dr. David. I'm from New York City. My question to my honorable,
Thank you, sir.
you are very inspiring, your message, and eloquent. My question is, I've been watching and I see the ocean bringing dollar in. Now, luckily, I'm one of the contact persons in New York City when it comes to affairs of Nigeria and Africa. My question to you, my honorable, how can we be in safe haven when it has to do with honest person to deal with in Nigeria? Now, I want to see or hear from the panel, who can we get in touch with when we want to get property here that we won't cultivate in empty barrel, that we pay and we don't get nothing in return. Fortunately, I'm very close to the Black American business people and developers. And I think before COVID, the main someone who came to the US to ask for people of business. And unfortunately that I was there as one of the people that he spoke with. Now I want to see how you can make it that we will have confidence in Nigeria when we're talking of real estate. Because we have big real estate developers that they are interested in Nigeria real estate. I was invited to Nigeria Embassy last year. They urged me to use my influence to bring business people to Nigeria. Where our problem started from is the consulate, where they can't get visa because they contacted visa to a private company. So now, if you can advise me, so I carry the message home that we are safe to do business with Nigeria or Africa particularly, that these are the list of people we can deal with, that we can sleep without open one eye.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Reverend. We appreciate your question. It's always a germane concern because these are investments that we're talking about here. I think you are already in the right space. You're already in the right space. Because when you make plans of the nature that you have indicated, and by the way, New York City is one of the leading blue economy centers in the world. I mean, in terms of what happens between New York and New Jersey, their port and what goes on there. So you've come to the right place in terms of a professional, having access to the right professionals to guide you in that. And so you'll be meeting with the presidents of the two presidents, FIABCI, Africa and Near East. Mr. Dele is here. He's going to work with you. And then, of course, Mr. Opatola is here as well. So here you have both FIABCI, which is the international body for real estate practice. And then you also have members of the NIESV, that's the Nigerian Institution for Estate Surveyors and Valuers. So you are in good company. So I hope that addresses your concern. Before I leave, I want to reference something I watched 2 weeks ago on television. It was in Enugu State. The governor of Enugu State and the owner of Landmark. Gentlemen, that's a man that understands what is under that blue rug. That's a man that understands the blue economy. I've never met him. I just saw it, and by the time I turned to it, I saw the governor, and what I could hear was Nike Lake Resort, and I saw Landmark. I didn't need to watch it any further. I could establish what was about to happen. And that's also a governor. That's why I said, go to the governor. The governors are the key to the blue economy. Let's be clear. Yes, we will eventually have a national policy. It's taken a while in coming. We had started that some 3 years ago, from NIMASA to the ministry then, and then under the chairmanship of the then vice president. We had a couple of meetings, but then of course, the tenure elapsed or ended, and then here we are. So we will get there. But don't wait for the policy. Write your own policy and start to execute, and then converge. There will be a convergence. But if you wait for the policy, it comes in 10 years. Uninvested resources will go latent. So blue economy will allow you to broaden your mix of portfolio in this business, and you need it. No investor sticks only to a singular line of investment. So here we see a man who encountered a very painful, and let's agree with that, setback. That was actually a thriving blue economy endeavor. Things happen. But here we also see a man who is resilient as the seas, as the waters. Who then says, okay, this has happened. Rather than throw his hands up in the air, blame, whatever, accuse, he locates another playing field, another watery playing field, a blue playing field. Nike Lake Resort in Enugu used to be a very fantastic place. And here we see a man, that's a blue economy, that he decides to move from the coast, because Landmark was on the coast, and decides to say, well, if the coast is giving me stress because of the construction of the Lagos, that's the coastal highway, which in itself, if accomplished, or when accomplished, will actually add significant value. But do not wait. We don't know when it will be accomplished. The man goes from the coast, from the coastal side to the blue corridor. That is how this game is played. How? Sitting down with the governor. The governor did not need to think twice. This man has something on the table. Gentlemen, that's the point we are making. He engaged, he didn't advocate. So I want to encourage us, and I look forward to our continued relationship, because already NIESB, FIABCI have, even though they've not given my certificate yet, I have it. I can walk in at any time. And I want to assure you, from the School of Eloquence to the Achievement Channel and to the Blue Economy Academy, we will always continue to support you, to work with you. We've got loads of programs, and ensure that we drive this together, because this is what will save Nigeria. It's what that will save Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let us continue with the organic round of applause. Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it.
So before we